I grew up in Los Angeles, California. My family immigrated from Mexico 50 years ago. This is my mother's side. My father's side lived in California before it was part of the US. So I say that because I have a very proud history of where I come from, and my community has always been a source of strength. My family has always been a source of strength. That said, when I went to school, I think a lot of what happened in the schools to, my family members, to my mother, really were what you would historically call like push-out procedures, right? Push-out things, like they weren't allowed to speak Spanish in schools. In fact, I think a school, administrator once went to my grandmother's house and actually told my grandparents to stop speaking Spanish at home because it was harming, my father and his academic work at school. A lot of that history influenced why I decided to go into teaching. Once I became a teacher, I was teaching in LA for 6 years, and I quickly realized that a lot of the problems in my classroom and my school were a lot bigger than what I had control over. I always found that students and I had a good time in the classroom, but structural and systemic inequities, a lot of politics, a lot of school finance issues, those things all affected the way our classroom was resourced and the way others, saw us. And I was looking to find some answers to all of these problems and questions that I was so frustrated about. A lot of my experiences teaching and a lot of my experiences going to school in Los Angeles, first generation and second generation Chicana, those all influenced my gravitation towards working with teachers in the teacher education program here. And my thinking was, if you're going to be working in communities where I grew up and communities where I taught, then you need to know about the community there. And the problem I saw a lot in my school was that we would have this constant turnover of teachers. Teachers would go and they would teach for a year or two, and then they would leave. And this constantly left us with the new teachers always learning how to be a teacher, and we just didn't develop the mentorship for teaching that we should have had. And I think that instability was a disservice to our students. So when I went into teacher education, studying for my doctorate here, one of the projects that I was working on with my advisor and a team of doc students was to figure out how to partner with local community members and our teacher education program. And that has been some of the most sustaining and fulfilling and challenging work that I've done, and it's all very much informed by my experiences teaching as well as being a student. I hope that I am continuing to work with communities, that I stay focused on bridging this divide between school and community. That's really, that sort of hybrid space is where I feel most comfortable, actually. Education often comes from the communities that we serve. I think the mentors are often the ones that are schooling us. Communities and families, students are always, I think, reminding these academics that knowledge is not something that just lies in the university or in research, that there is this knowledge that that sometimes isn't written, in a journal, and is just as important, if not more important, often to education.